Alright, so in the last video, we talked about possibly implementing a cage stomp mechanic akin to the OG 2v8 cage stomp mechanic in order to kind of help killers keep up with the new Survivor buffs and tweaks and changes coming through on the new PTB. So I wanted to hit it from a different angle and look at it from a much more fun and interesting perspective. Instead of implementing a cage stomp mechanic, which would get rid of flashy saves, get rid of pallet saves, getting rid of camping, tunneling, and slugging completely, I wanted to suggest changes that would actually just buff up the killers in ways that aren't flat, like baseline, oh, vault faster, kick pallets faster, move faster, none of that boring stuff. These will actually be fun and interesting changes to make killers actually feel like the power roll again. So, alright, so up first, this one's pretty simple, giving killers action priority across the board. Now, currently, we do have action priority in some small situations. For example, if a survivor is trying to reset a pallet with any means necessary, the killer can actually kick the pallet while the survivor is trying to pick it up. So that would be an example of action priority we currently have. But I think we need to extend that to the rest of the interactions in the game since the killer roll is supposed to be the power roll. That means if a survivor is working on a generator, you can kick the generator that they're working on, effectively knocking them off the generator and causing it to blow up. And then they would have to, run away or try to get back on it if they wanted to. Obviously, that wouldn't be smart. But the point is, you can kick the generator while a survivor is working on it. Obviously, though, if, say, the generator only has 2 spots open and both spots are occupied, you couldn't kick one of the spots a survivor's on. The survivor has to be off it for you to kick it, right? So this would prevent survivors being able to just tank a hit and pop the generator in your face, right? They'll actually have to respect you now. Another thing too is allowing killers to pick up survivors that are being heal tech. I'm sure you've seen this probably in an in-game situation where everyone's crawling towards the gate. You down a survivor and then a bunch of healthy survivors start heal teching them, and you have to hit each survivor, go through your cooldown while the survivor's slowly gaining progress, and then the next one comes and starts healing. You have to hit them, blah, 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 blah. This ignores all of that. You shove past all the survivors, basically. You pick up that slug survivor and put them on your shoulder immediately. So heal teching would be dead. Obviously, they could still hit your ass with a flashlight safe, but yeah, action priority when it comes to picking up survivors as well. And then same with hooking survivors when it comes to a sabo play. So right now, currently, if you try to hook a survivor while a hook is being sabotaged, even though there's nothing blocking you at all, because the game registers the hook as being occupied, you can't actually hook. I think the hook should have to be sabotaged before you get there. So that means if, say, the survivor is 50% of the way through sabotaging the hook, the killer could still hook on that hook and it would cancel out the person's sabotage. It would cancel their action out completely because they didn't sabotage it fast enough. So those are just a few small examples of what I mean by action priority, and I think killers should get that across the board. And another thing killers should definitely have is positional / momentum priority, meaning body blocking would be completely removed from the game. You've been in those situations where you're all running to the exit gate, one survivor's injured, the other 3 are trying to take hits, and they don't even have to take hits because you can't get around them at all because they can completely stonewall you and shut you out. Basically, the killer would have momentum priority, their hitbox would have a higher weight value, and they'd be able to shove the other survivors out of the way to get to their target. This would also have a secondary effect of stopping survivors from being able to body block doorways. So let's say you have a Claudette who unhooks a Sable, and then the Claudette runs out the room, and Sable just stands in the doorway, and you literally can't get through her. I mean, let me tell you, nothing is more immersion breaking than a 9'8", 1,000-pound solid muscle nemesis being stonewalled by a 4' nothing Sable ward. It's like the immersion, boom, instantly breaks. It's all gone because you can't get through that survivor. This would allow you to just move right through the survivor. It would just push them, shove them out of the way, send them moving in a different direction, and you could just get right by. It would also have another effect of no longer allowing body blocking for hooks. So essentially, you're carrying David King and you're going to a hook and they try to stand in front of the hook to stop you from being able to hook the David King. Well, now you just shove them out of the way and you hook the David King. So body blocking would be completely dead. Up next is an adjustment to flashlight and pallet saves. Right now, a pallet stuns you for 3 seconds, but if you're carrying a survivor, it stuns you for 5 seconds. A flashlight blind lasts 3 seconds, but if they flashlight save you, it's 5 seconds, right? You drop the survivor. I think it needs to come down to 3 seconds across the board. Obviously, flashlight saves and pallet saves wouldn't be affected by enduring, so you can have like a 1.5 second recovery on a save. It would be a fixed 3 second, but there's really no reason why it should be 5 seconds when you're already robbing the killer of so much momentum by stealing that kill from them. Like I said in my last video, certain killers are absolutely devastated by pallet saves or flashlight saves like Ghostface, and then certain killers like Blight just don't give a shit at all. Essentially, what this would do is really only help the lower tier killers recover from a huge loss like that, because it really doesn't help high tier killers that much, because like when it comes to Blight, what's the difference between going down 3 seconds later or 5 seconds later? It's pretty much irrelevant. Whereas that extra 2 seconds of distance on a Ghostface or somebody without mobility is absolutely insanely huge. Up next is something killers desperately need in this game right now as it is, and that is a rage mechanic. Now, actually, I've been thinking about this mechanic for a while, and Otsdarva just brought that up in his last video, so I think it's great that we're on the same wavelength. My main problem is those survivors who do the thing where it goes head on into flashbang, into decisive strike, into another head on, into another decisive strike, into a flashbang, and then a pallet stun at Shaq just to cap it all off. That should not be in the game. That should not be a thing that you can do to the quote unquote power roll and grief them in that way. It doesn't give your team any benefit at all. It's only toxic, and really it's only griefing and clip farming. I think you implement a mechanic to where once the killer gets blinded or stunned, they cannot be blinded or stunned for the next 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is long enough to prevent somebody from doing like a head-on to decisive to flashbang to head-on play, but it's not long enough to where you're looping a tile, you stun the killer, you run to the next tile, and you stun the killer, right? Maybe you would have to change it on Blight in like Kaneki and Nurse and stuff and lower it to like a 5 second, rage mechanic instead of 10. But yeah, I think that would be a really good feature in the game, and honestly, it should have been here a long time ago. And lastly, this one might be pretty controversial because this is a killer nerf actually and a survivor buff, but I think we need to bring back hooks not being able to be used after a survivor is sacrificed on that hook, but I want to change it to where the survivor's corpse stays on the hook when they're dead. So that way, if you're the last survivor remaining, you can just run around the map and see, oh, there was Sable that died 3 gens in, 10 minutes ago, and then there's Claudette right there, she died 4 minutes ago, and there's Meg right there, she died 1 minute ago. You can just run by those hooks and see their corpses hanging there on those hooks. And yeah, maybe you could give the killer the ability to take the corpses down or complete the sacrifice so they could get the hook back, but I would just like that to have that in game because it would actually help with the horror atmosphere, which is something this game is very lacking as of late, right? And if you had just bodies hanging on hooks around the map, that would definitely help boost the horror elements to the game. So yeah, that does it for this one. Let me know what you guys think of these changes. I think a lot of these are really cool. My favorite is getting rid of body blocking entirely. Like I said, my brain literally grows a tooth whenever a 4'0" Sable or Claudette stops a 1,000-pound, 9-foot tall Nemesis from being able to move anywhere and essentially trapping them in a room because Nemesis just can't do it. Big bad Claudette, fucking Paul the Wall Claudette is shutting down Nemesis, D1 level body blocker. He just can't get out. And that's really, really, really immersion breaking in my opinion. So yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.